Hello and welcome to the Plat podcast. We've got a little bit of a holiday special here. We're covering Europe and North America, covering both regional events, and this will be a fun one. We got a lot of Rocket League to talk about. With me, as always, I have Wally.
What's up? We do have a lot. I like to. It's a special
Yeah, I'm calling it that so it doesn't
holiday.
seem like we're lazy and missed a week.
Yeah,
Now
holidays.
it's a
It's
special.
special times. So special Rocket League to talk about.
Oh yeah, we've got a lot of surprising results, at least in Europe, where we're starting today. Um, I don't know, where do you want to start with this one? You can go ahead
This
and.
was the second winter regional. I think we can start with. Let's just start with the team that we felt that didn't perform the best. I feel like we'll
Okay.
just do that, and then we can go on a positive note after looking at good teams. I think we'll start off with Vitality.
Okay.
Um, you want to kick that off?
Yeah. Vitality's bad. No,
Yeah,
they
I think so too.
they you know their first series they beat Endpoint, which is not a surprise. Vitality always seems to beat Endpoint anytime they come up against each other. And then they get swept by Team Queso, which blew everyone away at the time. But then you look at the run that Queso proceeded to go on and make it all the way to the grand finals. Um, Not that surprising. Queso's looking
Yeah,
good. Um, so Vitality looks like they hit a little bit of a stumble, go to the lower bracket, and then sweep Liquid. So
which
you're like, oh, okay,
isn't a surprise.
yeah. So everyone's like, okay, they're back. But then they go and get swept by Galaxy Racers in the losers round four. So like they don't even make it to the losers quarter. Um, so they're out. Like that was huge because it opened up the rest of the bracket. So that way teams didn't have to play Vitality, which is really nice.
Yeah, I think Vitality is a team that does super well against teams that, I mean, excluding BDS, at teams that are like who they've played before frequently.
Mm-hmm.
I think that helps them, and I think Queso's a different team, obviously, but it's like a team that plays kind of different than what they're used to a lot of times. So then they can get pretty surprised. And I think Galaxy Racers is similar as well. They play in a different type of style. I don't think there's really one person on that team that's like carries them per se.
Yeah.
And sometimes other teams have that like thing, and then Vitality is really good at stopping that. Even though sometimes it seems like Vitality gets carried as well. But yeah, they just love the sweeps. They got swept twice. But and then they had a one. They
And they
did
got
sweep
one as
someone in
well.
the
Yeah.
middle, but yeah, it did open it up. Like it's one. I think if you're any of these teams that were still in it of at the moment that Vitality lost, it's like there's an opening for who will be in the final because it's always Vitality BDS.
Yeah.
So having a new team, it just released the floodgates. So yeah,
Um, Another team I wanted to mention just briefly, who also went on that round, was Dignitas. Because where it's a disappointing result for Vitality, I feel like this is a great result for Dignitas. Maybe not so much the placement, but the teams they took down. They took down a lot of teams that are around their level. They somehow lose to Train Hard in the upper bracket, but Train Hard then also took Giants to a game five, which looked scary for Giants, but then they went and swept Guild anyways, so who cares? Train Hard, I think, won like five straight overtimes through those two series as well against Giants and Dig. So they were battling hard, but they sent Dignitas down. But Dignitas was able to beat Endpoint and Oxygen, and took Redemption to a game five. And Redemption was looking really good this regional event. Cash especially. Anytime I saw Cash with the ball, he was like it seemed like he was always hitting it with a purpose. I don't know if you want to talk about Redemption as well
yeah. I didn't get to
and their
see
run.
too much of them, but I did whenever I did watch them. I think you liked Cash, and then I really like Ocelon when I watch them.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's someone who um he's not like the. I think Cash is the like when you think of Redemption, a lot of people just you instantly think of Cash, and then Aslan's more right there, but he's able to do a lot of the mechanical things that are necessary to get out of some tight situations. So that's
He's
what I like.
Yeah, he's great on his own goal line too. I feel like anytime there's a goal line save for Redemption, it's always Ocelon pulling it off.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it was nice to see that Dignitas beating Oxygen and Endpoint. It seemed lately that Endpoint hasn't been super amazing. I don't think they're bad, but they just haven't been super amazing. And then
Yeah.
Oxygen is it. You and I both feel so bad for Astro because you and I are both massive fans of him, and then he's just kind of getting wasted on that team
Mhm.
because there's like trash.
Yeah.
The two of Farah and Shaw said they're just not good at all. So it'd be like so amazing for Astral to just like not be on that team and watch him play for a fun team to like see them go beyond the losers round three and maybe be in a spot like the loser semis at least or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I think if Stake, if they just put drop Stake from Giants and then put Astro on that team would be
Oh my
so
lord!
cool.
Don't even tempt me
That
with
team
that.
would be
That
because
would
it's
that
whenever
would be
I watch
I would never watch any other team play if that was a
like
roster.
we don't we're not going to really talk about much about Giants. They went to the loser semis and they look pretty solid in this regional, which is good, and that's where they need to be. Like they need to be in that top four, top five range because that's
Yeah.
what they are. Um, but whenever I watch them, I just feel like Stake's their worst player, which is clearly obvious, but it's just like so evident when you watch them. So it's just like, man, if they had someone like an Astro on that team, oh my.
It would be like
I
otherworldly. Honestly, that team would be
It would be
so
so
fun.
much fun to watch that. I don't even care if they lost a couple. It would just be whenever they win, you just know it'd be amazing.
Yeah, cause
And he would never sigh, so it'd be okay.
yeah, with Oxygen, people still say Oxygen is a good team, but it's like I don't think they realize it's very much Astral hard carrying that roster. It's like, oh well, they're still doing pretty well. It's like, yeah, that's because he's doing all the work. Imagine if he had one, maybe even two teammates that could help him. Like it'd be impossible. Like he'd make the same impact that Alpha's making on Vitality. Like I put Astral and Alpha in the same category, but because Alpha has K-Dop and Fairy Peak, they're able to like you know they're just way better than Oxygen because he has teammates with him. They can help produce.
Yeah,
But you know,
but I think that Redemption's a really nice team that because I they talked a lot about how they were going to be super good coming into the first regional, and then they sucked big time, and it was just like, oh, everyone's wrong. But I didn't fully write them off in my head. It was just like, oh, I don't care about them right now. And then they make it all the way to the losers quarters and then had a super nice game against Queso that was even though it was 4-2 in my opinion it was a lot closer than that. The two of them played very fast. It's super exciting Rocket League, so that series is a lot of fun if you want to go watch something even though it didn't go to 7. You don't always have to go to 7 for a fun series, but that
yeah,
one was really fun. I said fun a lot there. And
sounds fun.
yeah, so I think Redemption's a nice team to look at. And
They're a
I
team that can
think we'll
cause
talk
some upsets too.
yeah, I think that they're a team that might get overlooked, um, but they are very nice. And then I think we can move towards we can talk about BDS because they did
All right.
not make it to the final, the grand
Yeah,
finals this time.
it's
We'll talk about the two
amazing.
grand finalists in a second, but
Yeah,
you go.
yeah, it's amazing to think BDS underperformed when they finished third place. Like the fact that that's underperforming for a team of that caliber, um, that says a lot about how good they've been. Um, BDS had a
Yeah, and they
pretty
went to game 7 overtime for the winners final, so it was
yeah
like they were inches from making it. And I think there was some close calls for top blokes in that game.
yeah
Um, but yeah, I think BDS, it's like they did underperform because they did make the grand finals, but it wasn't like they were ever like absolutely destroyed by either of those teams. Like they barely lost to top blokes, and then Queso was just they won 3 straight, and 2 of them were overtime at the end. So
mm-hmm.
it's super close. So I think you can attribute it to both other teams just did play better, and then it's also like maybe you just don't have the best day for BDS because I still both of us can argue that they're still the best team easily in
yeah
EU.
yeah
So we'll probably just be sitting here in a week or whatever when we talk about the third regional. And it's like, yeah, BDS won again. So
yeah they're back on
we
top.
just, yeah,
For BDS their run it seems like they always play a lot of the same teams. I feel like they every probably because they always make it to these winter semis and winners final. Once again, they go up against top blokes, they go up against giants, they go up against oxygen. But honestly, their first series against Fadeaway, Fadeaway looked really good during that series,
mm-hmm.
and I was excited to see like how Fadeaway would progress through the lower bracket, and then they immediately go. and lose to Liquid, which was very disappointing. But Fadeaway actually looked really good against BDS, and they lose in a game five overtime. So, um, they very easy. And then like BDS fans were like, "Oh no, we almost lost to Fadeaway," and then they just go and stomp Oxygen and only let in one
Hmm.
goal. So, you know, and then BDS does their BDS thing. They play Giants and win in six. I feel like that's the same score every time they play each other. Um, and then they lose in the game seven overtime to Top Blokes, and then go down and as we already talked about, Queso getting two overtime wins to close out the series. So BDS was looking good, but other teams were just like, I don't know. I guess they've played him enough. They've learned how to play with him. And Team Queso's just like insane midfield defense and just like
Hmm.
just shutting BDS down before they could pick up any speed was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then that just leads into we'll just probably just talk about both top looks and Queso at the same rate.
Okay.
Because they did meet in the winners semis, the two of them,
Yeah.
for the first time, and both their runs to their top looks had to go through Solar and Galaxy Racers, which are pretty easily for them. The Galaxy one was at first it looked shaky because Galaxy Racers won 1-0, and it's like top looks is a pretty offensive team in my opinion, like with how
Yeah.
fast, like how good Archie is and all of them. And then to get shut down 1-0 in game one, it's like iffy for game one because they're always getting used to it, but it looked a little iffy, like shaky, and then they won 4-2. So then they just stopped messing about, and then they won. And then Queso was a team that um, we just already talked about how they swept Vitality to get to that point, and that was already a massive, big step for them. So it's like even if they lost every game after that, beating Vitality is such a big start right there in your second match,
Mhm.
and to send them down to the losers. But they, we already talked about. I think you put it on the nail on the head. It's like their midfield defense is so good, um, and that just helps you so much. So you don't even let them get near your
Yeah.
attacking. And the only time you're really going to let them score is like a massive rip, and those just aren't a consistent way to score and beat a team. So they played. Um, they just shut them down. So then the top blokes Queso series was a lot of fun. Queso came out blazing, having two straight shutouts, and was on their way. And it looked like, oh, are they really going to also beat top looks? And it's like beating two of the top three teams in EU right there. And then top looks won four in a row.
Yeah.
So that kind of ended that little part right there. Then they go drop down. We already talked about top looks playing BDS in a seven game. And then you want to talk about Queso's lower bracket run.
Yeah. We already kind of touched on their redemption series where it was like, another series where I was actually really looking forward to. This two teams I don't get to see a lot of playing each other in very different styles. But Team Queso's like we keep saying, their midfield defense and their challenge game. Like they just like anytime you get through the midfield, one of them would be there to turn you away. And like if you somehow did manage to battle past them, there was just another person behind them anyways. Like their positioning was really sound. Um, and they were just kind of able to choke out redemption. Like through the first five games, they had five goals in total. So, you know, getting shut out twice, one goal one game, and two goals the other games. And when they scored two goals, they won both of those games. So it's just like they were literally just like their defense was just so strong against redemption. They go up against Giants, who honestly I thought Giants were gonna win this series. They had like to go on a little tangent here. Galaxy Racers were looking good. They had just beaten Redemption, looked decent against top blokes. They were playing kind of similar to Queso, where they were really fast on their challenges, and that's how they beat Vitality. They go up against Giants and get slapped. They get 4-0'd. Um, and then so you're like, oh, the Giants are looking good. Queso's looking good. This could be a good series. And then Giants get swept, scoring only two goals in four games, and that's a Giants team that has like one of the best offenses in all of Europe, especially with the addition of Itachi. Like he's just upped their scoring immensely. But
Yeah.
yeah, anytime, very similarly to the Redemption series, anytime um, the Giants would score one goal, Queso had two goals. Anytime they got shut out, Queso only had one goal. So Queso will just get the lead, and they'll just hold you there. Kind of like a fist fight with a dude with a longer reach. They just kind of hold you at arm's reach and just kind of wait out the time. Um, so that was a rough series for me to watch specifically because I just Like there was nothing even to cheer for Giants fans because they just couldn't score at all. And then an overtime game where you're like, oh, the reverse sweep could be coming, and then you just lose a minute in overtime, and then the series is done before you even know it. And then we already kind of talked about their series with BDS. Same sort of thing. Um, they won three straight, two in overtime, and it was a really good series.
Yeah, and then the grand final was a lot of fun. Where Top Lokes and Queso meet, and it was really kind of back and forth. There's four total overtimes in a games in a 7 game series. It's tough though, like to go through to 7 games in the first series, knowing that you have to beat them again four more times right
Yeah,
after, if you want to do through the bracket reset for Queso. So it's even though you go to a game 7, it's like all right, like even if you win this, it's still looking dicey for you. But
yeah,
they didn't get the opportunity to do that. They lost in overtime, and I think this whole grand final was just Casio just going off.
yes.
He
Honestly, the
was
whole regional
like
Casio was
he
was
was
pretty
lights out.
impressive.
Like usually when you think of Top Blokes and everyone talks about it, it's like all right, they're just carried by Archie, and he's just such a hard carry, and the other two are solid, but nothing out of this world. But Casio was playing like one of the best players in the world during this regional, so he was so much fun to watch, and it makes them seem so much more dangerous knowing that all right, it's someone not named Archie actually playing super well for them to bring them to a regional win.
Yeah, and I think that was a big reason why they were able to take down BDS is because they had, the X factor in Casio, and then and that was a big reason why they were able to battle through. Like we were saying that whole time, Giants only able to score 2 goals. Like, um, who else? Redemption only scoring 5 goals through 5 games. Top Blokes managed to score 4 straight games with 4 or more goals in that 7 game series.
Mm-hmm.
And shockingly enough, one of those games they lost. So like they were forcing Queso to play more offensive to beat Top Blokes defense as well. And in doing so, it gave Top Blokes better offense as well because Queso had a harder time defending because they were trying to attack. So it resulted in a lot higher scoring games, and that really favored Top Blokes. Because like a lot of these other series, like I said, you see Queso wins, it's 2-1, 2-0. You see where's some more of their wins. 2-1, 3-2, 2-0. It's a lot of low scoring, but in that series, they're they had a 2-1 win in game 1, and so it was looking heavy Queso after that cuz they're like, "Oh, they're just going to do it again." But then 2 wins for Top Blokes and then 5-4 for Queso, a win they're not used to. Then they lose, and then a 4-3 overtime win, which is another style of win they're not used to. So it just seemed like them trying to battle with Top Blokes play style, and it just didn't result in a victory for them.
Yeah, but I think that sums up our European regional.
Mm-hmm. And we can hop over to North America now, where things went a little more according to plan.
Yeah, I think so. I think we can just kick right off with the big um like the big thing that happened was that SSG lost um their first game of their time playing in this regional to Alpine this time.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they lost in this exact same spot last time to
Yes.
V1.
Yep.
So they're pretty consistent wanting to go to the lower bracket. Maybe they enjoy it down there. Um, but they lost to Alpine. That series was a ton of fun to watch. It went to game 5. It looked like Alpine won the first two, and it was like, oh, they really gonna lose again? Like, wow, they're bad. SSG that is, and
Yeah.
then they didn't let up another goal for games 3 or 4, and you're like, oh, never mind. They can just pull off this easy flip, this
Reverse
almost like
sweep.
flip reset,
It's reverse
reverse
sweep.
sweep, um, and then Alpine did get to squeak it out 3-2 win, and I think it was Magic Bear who just
Mm-hmm.
could not miss. Those
Yeah.
shots were insane that he had. And it really came down to SSG not being able to score. And that happened in the last regional with G2, where G2 should have won a couple more series than they did. And they just couldn't score. It's like these top teams in NA need to just be putting away their shots to
Yeah.
really be where um, Envy is. Like, Envy doesn't miss a lot of their chances, and I think that's why they win so many more of their series.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why you and I were just discussing yesterday about, I believe it was 2 days ago when we were talking about Mist, and it's like just how good he is, and a lot of it is down. He can do a lot of different things, but a lot of it's just like he doesn't miss his shots at all. So
Yeah.
whenever Turbo gives him a pass into the middle, it's a insta goal, and then it's like, all right, let's go. And then they're so good defensively with Atomic that they don't really have to worry too much about like expanding. But then when they do, they again don't miss, and it's not just missed, but
Yeah.
SSG could not score on their shots they should have.
It was.
But yep,
Yeah. This series was really strange because you could tell SSG just wasn't warmed up at all coming into the series. I don't know if they need to find either any scrim partner or they need to find a better scrim partner before these regional events starts because Alpine had already gotten a series to warm up. They got to play Sip and Ice Cubes right before. Um, and then Space Station comes in clearly not warmed up, only scoring one goal in their first two games, and then they're finally ready to play, and then they looked good. They shut them out 2 games in a row, but then it was now both teams are warmed up, and Magic Bear steals a series with his insane shooting, and SSG just barely missed on a couple shots, and that's the series. Like you have 2 games where you don't show up, and a best of five. Like the other team only has to get lucky one more time, and they've taken the series, and that's exactly what happened here.
yeah, and so then they went down to the lower bracket, and then they got to play V1, which was after they beat Seoul. But it would have been really funny if they lost to V1
Yeah,
again in back-to-back regionals, which would have knocked them out. And it got really close. They had to win the final 2 games, and one of them being in overtime. Oh, I was so excited to see them lose because that would just been so funny. Like I like Sypical, and then they're like a fun team to watch, but it would just been bonkers for them to not win,
yeah,
um, or make it past the losers round two. So that would have been insane. But then they again had a super close one with Ghost, that they had to go to overtime, and Ghost should have won that series without a doubt. I think it was freshness. He just had the ball with like 3 seconds left in his back, a little bit outside of his back left corner, and then he thought this is the time to dribble it out instead of just sending it down. And then he got intercepted, and then Rettle scored, and then it sent it to overtime, and then a minute 18 in, I believe, Sypical scored.
yeah,
So it's like barely squeaking out again, and then they destroy KCP. And you're
yeah,
like, ooh, lower bracket run.
yeah. It's the one positive you can take away from the version 1 and Ghost series though is just the fact that SSG won. Like even if they struggle with some of these other teams, they're at least still like pulling out a victory. And
Yeah,
at the end of the day, that's all that matters. I didn't get to see their KCP game, but
neither
I
no.
mean, all 1 goal games. I just assume it's a case of SSG is just the better team there.
Yeah,
And then we get to see them bump into G2 in the lower bracket after they lost to NRG in 7. And that was a fun series. So this was a coin toss for me. I had a feeling it was going to go in the favor of SSG simply because, G2 is coming off a loss, SSG is coming off a sweep. That's the only reason I kind of figured it was going in favor of SSG. And it was. A lot of the high scoring games were in SSG's favor. A lot of the low scoring games were in G2's favor. Um, and that was a fun series as well. Another 6 gamer. Um, you know, it was a good series. No overtimes, but all like fun, entertaining games.
yeah. And then they played Rogue, and then they breezed by them. There was just no shot. They just played so much better than Rogue in that one. Not a single overtime again, making their lower bracket run. And then they run into NRG, and then that one's like, all right, this one, they might be on their run, but NRG has done pretty well in this regional. They were able to beat G2. They barely they did they then they got swept by Envy though. So then it's like,
Yeah,
how's their mentality working? What are they thinking about? Is Justin on is like, it's too much in his head, and it seemed like it was because SSG won in four, and it almost looked like a sweep, but Energy barely squeaked one out. Um, but that, and then they make it to the grand finals. Um, and we could talk about that now, or you want to wait on that one?
Um, let's run through
We'll leave
Envy's.
that up. We'll leave
Well,
that up. We'll leave that up.
okay. Let's say we can go through Envy's run, and then we can talk about the grand final on Envy's run because they were the ones who ended up winning it all.
Yeah, you want to start that off?
Do you just want to go to Envy now, or are there any other North American teams you would like to talk about?
You wanted to mention Pittsburgh Knights. That was the other one. That was the other big one.
Okay. Pittsburgh Knights, not too much to talk about. Just disappointing. I didn't get to see it because it was. I think most of their games were on the B stream.
They
Um,
all were.
they lose. Actually, yeah, I think all of them were. You're right. They lose to KCP, which was kind of surprising considering these two teams. I feel like play each other a lot, especially you know, in these early rounds. Um, Pittsburgh Knights has been getting the better of them recently, but I guess KCP won this time around. Um, and I guess that kind of shows because KCP's looked a little bit better in this regional. They go down and they sweep Charlotte Phoenix. It looks like it was a very close series. Two overtimes and one nothing. But at the end of the day, it is Charlotte Phoenix, and it was a sweep, so they got the job done. Um, and then they go to Sip and Ice Cubes, which is the team of
Forky's team.
yeah, like Forky, Mile, and Luke. Um,
Yeah.
and they lose somehow. I kind of want to go back and watch that series just so I can see
I heard
exactly
that Luke
how.
played super well. I heard that it
Okay,
was a lot of Luke playing well.
and that makes total
You
sense.
can't discredit either of them, but I heard like they were on the stream and they were just saying that Pittsburgh Knights had lost to Seven Ice Cubes, and Jorby could not stop laughing, um, out loud laughter, which was pretty hilarious to listen to. And they did that. He was just talking about how it was Forky's team because that's what everybody's talking
Yeah.
about. And then, but he was told then that it seemed like a lot of Luke doing a lot of the good work. So not going to discredit because I didn't get to watch a lot of it, but it seemed like Forky. No, it seemed like Luke was
Yeah.
the turning point. But yeah, Pittsburgh Knights not making it out of the losers round two is pretty rough to see because you and I were both high on them. They did much better the last regional because of what was the
Sosa. Sosa move.
I know they have Sosa. What team was he on before? I can't.
Oh,
Think of the
Plat.
name. That was the one.
Yeah.
I thought of Omelet at first, and I was like, not it. So I was a clown.
That's where Luke came from.
Yep. And so it was rough to see them not do as well there, but Pittsburgh Knights just didn't. It wasn't their weekend there.
Yeah.
So,
And then,
but we can look at. Yeah, you go.
And then Sip and Ice Cubes proceeded to get Braziled in Game 4 against the Peeps in the next round.
Yeah, they shouldn't have been there. So.
Yeah, I guess we can tackle this.
Yeah, I think coming
this
up,
Envy run.
We'll talk about Envy, but a lot of it's like we just look at it and Envy makes it to the winners semis, and the winners semis this is where it comes to be normalcy with seeing these teams. We get NRG, G2, Envy, and Rogue in the winners semis. Those are 4 of the 5 best teams. I think Rogue is the loner in there, and I think if you just replace them with SSG, but I think Rogue is the 5th best.
Yeah.
In NA, so it's not a big shock there. Those 2 series went as expected. It was nice to see 2 7-game series. That was fun.
Yeah.
But I think you and I and everyone can see that NRG is better than G2, and we know that. And then Envy is clearly better than Rogue.
Yeah. I think this is a case of like 1 and 2 playing spots like 4 and 5 basically, where 4 and 5 are close.
Yeah.
But they're no match for 1 and 2.
I agree.
Yeah, and I mean like it's similar when you look at the winners quarterfinals / losers round 3. You make pretty much any prediction there, and you'll probably get it right. Outside of maybe Alpine Sonics, I think that was the only series that was kind of up in the air for that section. But like NRG's beating Peeps, G2's beating Alpine, Envy's beating Ghost, Rogue's beating KCP, Peeps are beating Ice Cubes, KCP's beating Loco, and Space Station beating Ghost. Like it was pretty straightforward from here to the end, honestly. Not a lot of huge shockers. Score wise, maybe with like sweeps, but outside of that, it's like more often than not the better team ended up winning. And I
Yeah,
guess
it was. I agree with you. Yes.
yeah. So do you want to go on Envy's run now?
Yeah. They played down to earth their first series. They won that one 3-1. Then they
Yeah.
played Ghost, which was one that was pretty close. They involved two overtimes. I thought that series. I mean, it ended 3-1, and then we know that Envy's better. But I felt Ghost held their own against them because there's such a
Yeah.
big skill gap there.
And
So that
I
was
always
interesting.
I always think 3-1s look like such a weird score because it's like you see 3-1, it's like, oh, Ghost only managed to win one game, but say they win one more, suddenly it's a game five decision, and then
Yeah,
it's like
I
a
think it's
close
rough in a
series.
game five to look like
Yeah,
have it
like game
show
five,
that a team's close without being a game five.
exactly, yeah. So it's like, oh, 3-1, but it's like that was a much closer series than I think. I hate the look of a 3-1. I don't know, that's just me, because it looks like
I
it's
agree.
a bigger gap than it is. But yeah, Ghost played well, but as we've seen every time Ghost and Envy have played each other recently, um, Ghost play well, but Envy's just the better team.
Yeah, I felt bad for Ghost because they had to play Envy and then go straight to SSG.
Yeah.
And they played good in both those series. So I felt bad. We can also mention that with the new update and the new season, we got the Ghost decal now,
Oh
so
yeah.
we're all happy about that over here at the Plat Rats podcast. So that's a big smile on our faces that they finally brought that. I'm glad that you can just buy them whenever. I thought the rotation for that was kind of silly.
Yeah.
Um, and what confused me about it, little tangent, it just confused me because this just is pure money based because you have to pay like specific money to get those
Yeah.
credits because you can't just earn them any other way. Why would you not want people just spending their money whenever? So
Yeah. It seems strange.
silly to me, but yeah, I dropped $3 on that, so it looks cool. But Envy made it through to pass them. Then they played Rogue. That was a really nice series. It got pretty dicey for them to go to Game 7 because Rogue was on a 2-game winning streak of OTs. They were pretty fast over times, but looking interesting for them. And then I was like, oh, Game 7, because I was doing something. So I was like, oh, I'll try to pull up it on my phone real quick. And then right as I turned it on, I saw Turbo score, or someone scored to make it 2-0. And I was like, well, I don't see Rogue coming back. So
Yeah.
it's like, I think Rogue is a team that if they played absolutely amazing um, every time, then in every game, then I think they could beat Envy, but they have to be like at 1,000,000% to do it, and that's just unrealistic. So Envy is better. Then they play NRG, and that series was just
Actually, I want to mention for that NV Rogue series as well. Honestly, like if you just look at the score sheet for all these games, it really just goes to show how good both of these teams are playing in low scoring and in high scoring games. Like NV taking a 2-1 and a 4-3, Rogue taking a 2-0, NV winning a 5-4, Rogue winning a 1-0 in overtime, and then a 6-5 in overtime, and then NV winning a 2-0. So it's like both teams are managing to win low scoring games and high scoring games, which is really nice to see because NV wins a lot of low scoring games, and I feel like Rogue usually wins a lot of high scoring games. And having those two teams play each other just made for some really like you never like the game would start, you would have no idea how many goals would be scored by the end of it. It could be 11 in the case of Game 6, or it could be one in the case of literally the game before. So that was a really fun series.
yeah. I did enjoy that one, and then Envy NRG, like
Envy was just better.
they're
They were
all 1-goal games,
yeah
but it's just you knew which team was better throughout it. And then they meet SSG in the final, and then uh, you're just thinking, all right. I mean, they're coming through the winners, and we know that MV just won the last one, so they're expected. But it's like SSG's coming from their lower back bracket run where they just beat G2, just beat Rogue, and just beat NRG. It's like those are the teams that you have to beat if you want to win a regional. And they went to this was another awesome grand final for NA.
hmm
To go to a game 7, it's just constantly back and forth between the two. It was like neither could really get a stronghold of it, especially that 8.5 minute overtime.
Yeah,
And that was so much fun to watch because it's like, who's winning this? Because that could just really pull the tide. And then surprisingly, because I thought it was going to be done right there, whoever won that, I felt like was going to win that series at least. And then if it was
that's what I thought
SSG,
as
like
well.
SSG won the next two, and you're like, oh, okay, there's a that's a game 7 win right there. Let's see the second like round of it, I guess, for the bracket reset,
Yeah,
and then hmm.
yeah, it was kind of hard to watch.
Yeah, I didn't watch it all because I
Same. We were playing Rocket League, and then like at this point, we'd already watched, 4 straight
you've
days
already
of
watched
Rocket
so much
League.
of Envy, and you're just like, once they won the first few, especially that 4-1, it was like, yeah, this seems about done. So
Yeah,
back to back regionals for Envy, super impressive in its own right. They are the best team in NA clearly,
yeah,
and another way to put it, really, well, it's just I'm really intrigued to see how it would go when they if they played a BDS. Like, who is
yeah.
better?
I cannot wait till we get some international games again.
Yeah, and I just hope like when we get the international ones, like these teams don't just randomly change for some reason. Like I want to see Turbo versus Monkey Moon. That's what I want to
Yeah, yeah,
see,
yeah. And I
and
think
I
we
want
will.
to see
I mean, I don't see
those
teams
teams. I
that
don't think
good
will
will
change.
change. Yeah,
I don't think they'll change. Yeah, I agree, but I'm super excited. But that
yeah.
closes off this one.
I
There's
think.
way less.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think this series also really shows why I really liked last North America's regional final so much, like with the NV NRG, where it went to
Yep.
Game 7, but then NV won, so there was no bracket reset. Because this is what I was afraid of: a really great Game 7, and then a sweep on the next
Mm-hmm.
reset. Like it just kind of puts a like a kind of a stain on it because it's like they played SSG played so well, and then to just get swept in the reset was really unfortunate to see for them. But and that just goes to show what makes last regional that much better, is we got
Yeah.
a satisfying conclusion to it. But
And
yeah,
then the last thing that we can mention is um, the grids that we have not mentioned in the last little bit. We can bring up the first NA grid. I believe we were watching this while we were doing the last one, or was that the other one? But Energy has won both of the NA grids.
is that week two
So,
and three?
um, I don't think they've played three yet. I
Oh,
don't believe so. I can check though.
okay.
No, they haven't played three.
Oh, okay. So yeah, they've won
They
the
won the
first two.
first two,
Okay, so
and
that yeah,
then
the only new
which is
information was
which is
week
good for
two.
them. Like it's the grid is something that it's still something that I find is interesting in my opinion. I don't know how much stock you can really put into it, but they they're winning those, which is good to just prove that you're still one of the best teams in NA. And then Singularity beat Giants for the EU
Yeah, that was
grid week
exciting.
two. So go check out that final series for the grid, and then the second NA grid we were talked about last podcast because I think it was happening while we recorded it, but there were some nice upsets in that one. So go watch that, but we won't delve into it because we already talked for basically an hour here.
Yeah.
So, but that's all we've got, and I think we have the third European regional this weekend, or am I
No,
wrong?
I think they're taking a week
Oh,
off.
we have a while
Yeah,
because
it'll be back when
January
it's back.
9th, January 9th
That's the
is
next
the
regional.
is the next EU regional, and then
Okay.
January 23rd is
Oh
the
well, in
NA.
the meantime, they have is that Beyond the Summits going on like right now. So if people want more Rocket League, they can watch that. But we're not
Yeah,
going to talk
I'm
about it.
watching that now. If you want to see a cool game, watch. I believe this is game 4 or 5 of the Rogue E United series. These Rogue
Ooh.
goals were insane, so check that out.
Okay. Actually, because those are two teams I
Yeah,
enjoy
this is
watching. So
Rocket League Summit 2 is what's happening right now.
all right,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
gonna
all we
check
got
that
here.
out. All right. Thanks for watching, Wally. Thanks for joining me as always.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, anytime. I literally couldn't do it without you. And this has been another two regionals covered. I think we have one more regional for both North America and Europe, and then we'll be covering the majors for both of those again as well.
Yep,
Cannot wait for those majors. Um,
either kind.
I'm sure if you're around, we can do another watch party. Because because
Yeah, that'll be
that
fun.
was successful last time. And thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.
Yeah.